Let's talk to Ian Lesser, who's Vice President of the American public policy think tank, the German Marshall Fund. We'll talk about the problems on Ukraine's border. He joins us from Brussels. Welcome to DW. People are fond of saying that diplomacy is working as long as no one is shooting. But it's hard to see what the last few weeks of intense, high-level diplomacy has achieved.
Well, that's exactly right. Of course, the diplomacy is essential, but the dynamics change as time has gone on and as the forces have been concentrated around Ukraine, as the risk of something going seriously wrong, whatever Russian intentions are, will increase. And so there are two challenges here. One is crisis management, immediate crisis management, which so far does not seem to have been successful. And the other is to see if there isn't some way to talk to Russia about some of its longer-term concerns. I mean, President Macron has tried to do that. That, too, has not yet been successful, and that's a longer-term project.
So there seems to be little trust in this process as well, when we have Russia saying that it's withdrawing troops and the US saying, and its allies saying, well, we've checked and you really haven't. Again, it's hard to see how diplomacy can work without trust.
There's very, very little trust. I mean, that's absolutely clear. What is also clear is that it's possible to see almost everything. I mean, intelligence services, even commercial satellite operators, can provide overhead imagery, which makes, in other kinds of intelligence being gathered, makes it very clear what is happening. But of course, judging intentions is much tougher. And there, we really do get to this question of trust. And trust at the moment is I don't know if it's at rock bottom, but it's certainly at a minimum on both sides.
Talking about addressing Russia's security concerns, cynically speaking, if Russia wants to keep Ukraine out of NATO, then short of NATO or Ukraine agreeing to this demand, then all Moscow really has to do is maintain the instability at the border. Is that a sustainable policy in the long term?
Well, I have to think that Russia understands very well that Ukraine is not becoming a member of NATO anytime soon, perhaps never. I mean, this is very clear. It's one thing to have a declaratory open door, which is NATO policy, and NATO allies aren't going to back away from that. But the politics of it are also very clear, that NATO simply isn't joining Ukraine isn't joining NATO anytime soon. They may be equally concerned over the long term of Ukraine just simply coming closer to the European Union, coming closer to the West, and all that would mean for society and politics inside Russia itself. And that may be the longer concern, the longer game that Russia is trying to play to prevent that. It's pretty clear that the tougher they can make the situation look in Ukraine, the harder it will be for Ukraine to be integrated into the West.
Right. And what's your view on the way that US-European cooperation in this situation has worked? Is this a well-functioning machine?
I think it's been very, very close, actually. And, there's a package of sanctions being developed on the European side, but developed in close coordination with the United States. These haven't been revealed in detail yet, but my sense is that on an hourly basis, a constant basis, the EU and the US are talking to each other about what should be in that package and about policy towards Ukraine in general. It's a huge shift from the kind of atmosphere we had in US-EU relations just a few years ago, obviously.
All right, good talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Ian Lesser, Vice President of the German Marshall Fund.
Good to be with you.